Oh, that was fun. Okay. Is someone else playing music?
Negative.
No.
Oh, you know what's happening? Hang on.
You have it playing somewhere else?
I had to mute the okay, I had to mute the tab where I'm going live on Instagram.
Oh, so there you go.
Got it.
No, I was laughing so hard before we went live because you were talking about your autograph wall back there, and you go, I've been working on my autographs, and my ego went straight to me. So I went like, oh, dude, I've been working on mine too. I hate when I sign my book and people can't read my autograph. So I instantly just the ego took over, and I went to grab my book to go, look at mine. Here's what mine looks like now. And then you turn around and start showing real autographs. I'm like, oh, what an idiot. So anyway.
See, mine went to my insecurity where I was also thinking my own signature, but how terrible it is and how I really need to work on that so that when people get it, it's not like, oh, I can't read this.
Something's happening. The video on Instagram. Can you guys hear everything twice?
No.
You might need to play with some settings then if you're hearing everything twice. Can you mute? Can you mute one of the tabs maybe? Or?
I'm trying. I muted it. Okay, hang on. I don't know what's happening today.
Well, welcome to being live on anything. Instantly going wrong.
This says it's episode 150 something, but actually it's 1. It's actually 1.
It's something
101.
Oh, I know what's happening. Oh,
you got it?
Jesus Christ, I know it. Okay, sorry. Oh, you know what happened? I don't know. I apologize. Hey, welcome to Crossing the Streams. I had YouTube open on the other tab, and I didn't know it was open, and now I have absolutely no idea how to get to my live video. Oh, there we go. Okay, all right, we're back.
Do you want to rewind this live?
That was
Do you want to rewind this?
Rewind.
Okay, rewind. Let's
do
over. Hey, okay. So what was happening was I thought the one thing was I was going live on Instagram, and then I had the YouTube open on a hidden tab. You know how we have 1,000 tabs open these days, and so I was hearing everything twice, and I couldn't figure out where the second thing was. And you guys are just talking like you're all normal, and like, so what did I miss?
I never talk like I'm normal.
What did I miss? It's good to be here.
Welcome to your show, Jeff. This is amazing.
I know.
It's great to have you today.
How do you do your autograph?
Welcome to Cross the Streams, where we answer the universal question: what should I watch next? I just watched something, and now I got to watch something else. We've come to the right place. Between the four of us, we have 100,000 hours of TV and movie watching experience between us. And we are excited to share it with you. We have couple returning guests, brand new guest, Spider Dan. Spider Dan, tell everyone all about Spider Dan.
What is there to know? I am a podcaster. I podcast about Spider Dan and the Secret Balls is the title of the show, and I talk about kind of cult films or obscure films or comic books, that sort of thing. That's kind of what I'm into. So I dig up these kind of like an archaeologist, dig up these forgotten treasures. Sometimes they should remain buried in many senses of the word, but often not. But it depends. It's the luck of the draw. What I've picked, what my guests have picked, what my patrons have picked. It could be anything. You could get something like Visitor Q, a very weird Japanese film, but then also you can get things like Young Sherlock Holmes. Some very entertaining, fun, Harry Potter-esque fun there as well. So yeah, it's a real kind of random assortment of topics and all sorts, TV, film, whatever it may be. But we always have a lot of fun, all of my guests, including one of your returning guests as well. But yes, that's the podcast. Go check it out.
So you're coming at us from the UK?
Yes, yeah. So I'm based in Manchester, so kind of northwest England, basically.
Okay, so I think you might be the first UK guest on the show.
Yes.
I think we've been unapologetically American up until maybe Canadians. I'm
Probably
sure we've
the
had.
time that you have your show.
I know. But
What
now we're
time
gonna.
is it, Dan?
So it is 2:30 in the morning. So
Oh, you're
Wow.
insane.
Yeah.
Wait, well, this is
Wow.
Tanya's like
I'm in
Spider Dan wants to come. I'm like, sure, of course.
Yeah,
You're right. I didn't even
absolutely,
do the timer.
exactly.
You're right.
This
Everyone
is
in
a,
the
this
UK
is a
is
school
sleeping.
night. I'm going to be up at about 6:30 probably. So
All
gonna
right.
be
Well, this show will get you out of here with 15 minutes to spare.
I'll be fine.
And then we
I,
have
I don't sleep.
we have returning guests. This is her second time on the show, Tonya Todd. Also, my current guest on Classic Conversation. So if you need more Tonya after this, check out that episode. It's super awesome. Tonya, tell everyone about yourself.
Well, first of all, meow, and thank you for having me again, even though we were kind of picking on you last time. I do want to know, have you started stretching?
I do want you to know
What did I miss?
I do want you to know that when I forwarded you the link for tonight's show, I said, "Oh, look, that's right. Tonya sent me stretching exercise."
Yes, I did.
So
that's
I
where
put
it's
them
been
somewhere
now.
where I started pickleballing, and Tonya wanted to make
now
credit for
I
that.
have more questions about the stretching.
Right?
Yeah. So hey Jerry, hey Lee. So yeah, I started playing pickleball, and so I don't know. I never feel more alive than when I play pickleball. But I did see somebody who's my age on Facebook that completely destroyed their leg. I mean, a cast like
Playing
huge-
pickleball?
Yeah, hurt themselves playing pickleball.
That's a little aggressive on the pickleball court.
Yeah.
I think it's like there's all these like quick stops and all that kind of stuff that you know.
Yeah.
But it's my entire TikTok feed and YouTube feed is now just all pickleball. Every TikTok is all like, if you want to learn how to dink, stick with me for the next 60 seconds and I'll have you dinking like a champion. All right. And then it's always like, hit it like this, not like this, hit it like this, not like this. And I can't tell the difference. I can't tell it. It's like hold the paddle just slightly like this, but don't do that. And then you're going to dink. And when you dink, your third shot drop. And then don't be in the kitchen. And it's like,
I am not following this conversation at all.
All I'm hearing
exactly
is
my
dinking.
point. Exactly.
I'm hearing dinking and hit it like that, and that's all
Right.
I'm
And you're saying it
nowhere.
all, hit it like that, not like that. Hit it
Yeah.
like that, not like that.
That's what I'm
And then
saying.
you'll-
Like
then
when you
you'll-
watch these videos, and
This
they're
sounds
like,
a lot dirtier than I
It sure
imagined
does.
pickleball to be.
Pickleball. I'm completely naive. Again, I'm showing. Again, I'm bringing some diversity to your show. Clearly,
Right.
so I don't know
Cultural
what
diversity.
I don't know the naivete of myself. I don't know what pickleball is. It does sound like a sex act.
Old people say
Especially
like-
the way Jeff talks about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
pickleball. Yeah, pickleball
Hit
is
it like
small
that. Hit it like
tennis.
that. Ah, okay, right. Okay,
And
like
it's-
like squash, kind of maybe.
I don't know.
But
if
squash
you,
is against the wall, right?
if you
I
want to
think so,
make $1
yeah.
million, Spider Dan, I'd bring pickleball to the UK because
All right, here we go. Here we go.
huge.
it seems to be the fastest growing sport in the world. Or
I think
something.
the name might need some reworking though. We'll retool it. We'll do a marketing campaign.
Call it fanny ball.
Now that is, I'm sure that is already a sex act. I'm sure.
It's-
But yeah,
I think I heard about
consider it.
pickleball maybe 5 years ago. It's when I first started hearing about it. I was still in corporate at the time, and my direct report boss, he was probably, I don't know, in his mid 60s, and he started playing this pickleball. And of course, I gave him a bunch of crap about it. But yeah, it started picking up steam, and now it's everywhere. It's everybody I know plays this pickleball. I don't, but
It's very addictive. It's very fun. Hello, Believe This Podcast and Evan B. Matthews on Instagram. I missed the whole thing. Like everyone played pickleball, and then everyone's like champions, and you go to a thing, and it's like, are you a 2.0, 3.0, 4.0? I'm like, I don't know. I'm like,
Do
it's
you play
basically like
indoor
playing
or
ping pong
outdoor?
on the table. If you were to shrink down and play ping pong on the table, I feel like that's what pickleball would be.
But do you play
Wow.
it indoor or outdoor?
I've only played outdoor, but only because that's indoor. I think you need a different ball.
So I was actually invited to play pickleball this week, but I said that it's 1,000,000 degrees here in Las Vegas, so I'm not going outside for several months. But I mean, in reality, I'm just booked until pretty much October, so that's going to be the case anyway.
Yeah, you don't want to hurt yourself.
See, even these things, pickleballs in Tijuana, still sounds dirty.
It sounds even worse now. All of a sudden,
I think that was dirty. He said I picked up pickled balls.
Pickled balls. Oh,
Yeah.
See, now I hear you. Now I get it.
Oh, right. Now, yeah, I'm seeing the pictures now. It does look familiar. I don't know.
Are you surfing in the middle of a live broadcast?
I'm researching. So, when I do bring it, I mean, it looks like it's already in the UK, to be honest. So I've missed the boat on that. So. But yeah, I don't want to feel left out. I want to know what people are talking about to a degree.
So Donald Sutherland passed away.
Yes, he did. Yep.
President Snow, amongst other things.
Mr. Bennett.
Yeah.
I have a thing on my show, which is a good and a bad thing, but I call it the Zeitgeist curse. And every time I decide to cover something, something related happens in the zeitgeist, and sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes it's a bad thing. I'm doing a kind of a Body Snatchers-esque episode with Donald Sutherland in a film, and he's just died. And I had the same thing with Alan Arkin last year when we did World War II month. I chose to do a film he was in, and then 2 films he was in, and then he died before we did them. So unfortunately, it's struck again, that same curse, which is a real shame, because he's a phenomenal actor, always has been. The original Watcher in the Buffy film as well, among other things.
And Kiefer's dad.
Yeah, Kiefer's dad.
Yeah, that as well. There is that. Yeah.
You know who else died? The dad from, he's not pictured here, but the dad from Land of the Lost died. But here's me pictured with Chaka, Will, and Holly from Land of the Lost.
My gosh, look at Holly. Wow.
Yeah. So I had them on the podcast, Will and Holly, and Wesley, was
that a television show or a movie?
Yeah, no, it was a show.
It was a television show, and Will Ferrell made it into the worst movie ever made in the history of the world.
I doubt it was the worst.
And that's being kind.
It was up there with the worst. Yeah,
I tried to watch it, and I couldn't even get 10 minutes into it. It's horrible. It's horrible. It's like one of those things where it's like the fattoush salad I had in the middle of Detroit once. That was so bad because it tasted like someone had just told somebody what a fattoush salad might be, and then that's what they used to make it. That's what the Land of the Lost movie was, and it was horrible. It was horrible. Shame on Will Ferrell and Danny McBride. But it was a classic television show, a Sid and Marty Krofft television show. It was remade in the 90s as well, but the only magical version was the original 70s version.
Yes.
So, so much of it's still in pop culture, slee stacks or people calling people chaka, stuff like that. And so I was talking to him, and he's like, in the beginning, it's Will and Holly Marshall on a routine expedition, but the greatest earthquake ever known. And then they fall to the Land of the Lost in a raft. And that's the opening every week. And they're like, oh, yeah, when we go to Comic-Cons, we bring a raft and we take pictures with everyone in the raft. And I'm like, I can't think of anything I need more in my life than that.
Picture in a raft.
And so here's the funny thing. So they come to a Comic-Con, not the one I normally go to in Michigan, but it was another one. So I went, and it was all 3 of them. It was Chaka, Will, and Holly. And so I go in and meet them, and hey, nice to meet you in person, all that kind of stuff. And so it was like $50 each for the autograph, and you got the photo. Okay. And if you go to Comic-Cons, you would know that is a smoking deal. Okay. Because usually it's you pay for it and you had to pay for the photo.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I was like, oh, that's a deal and a half. Yeah, of course we'll do both. Or maybe it was $40 or something like that, but it was $50 each. And I'm like, 50, that's the normal price for an autograph. Now picture me trying to explain that to my wife.
Maybe show your back wall, and I think she knows. I think she knows.
Well, I mean,
about
she
you.
knows and pretend like, like I worked the Comic-Con this year, the last Motor City Comic-Con. I did, I ran panels and they paid me to run panels. But I think they call it girl math. It was like, because I didn't actually make any money because I actually used all that money to get autographs of all the people I wanted to meet at it. So it was kind of like a wash, but I was like, but it was
I've never heard that phrase used that way, but it's probably a good thing.
I mean, that sounds like boy math as well, to be fair.
Yeah, boy math.
That's
girl
my
math.
boy. That's my kind of boy math, anyway.
Yeah, it's just funnier when you call it girl math. Girl math is like,
Is it?
I got a
Because it's
refund and then I
sexist?
spent it.
I think it goes, is it?
Because sexism is funny.
And you'll notice that I'm completely quiet on this subject.
You're not going to win this argument.
I think it's a very cool thing. I don't see it as a slam. I wouldn't have said it, especially in front of you, Tonya, if I thought it was. I think it's my girls use it all the time. It's something you laugh. It's more like you laugh about it. It's like, and then they call it, it's like.
This hole's getting deeper and deeper.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's my definition.
Happy anniversary, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
There you go. How did it last this long with those types of views, Jeff?
Yeah.
How did you keep her this long being the sexist pig that you are?
No, I got. Who do you think I learned it from? It's them. They go like, Dad, no, it's you gotta understand. I returned it and bought this.
You
It was
ruined
free. You know what I mean? It's like I learned the phrase from them. So
Yep.
it's totally
I've learned
legit.
a lot of phrases in life, and there's a lot of phrases I still don't use, regardless of where I learned them.
Oh, please. That's like there's nothing wrong with it. It's all in context. Everything is about context and motivation.
I've tried
behind
that
it.
excuse too.
Sure.
I've tried that excuse too.
Yeah.
But hey, man, it's just context, bro. It's just context. You're taking it out of context. Right before I wake up 5 minutes later.
All right. I'm going to quickly
How can we
convert
make
this
that
conversation
squirm?
to a Haktua girl just to get it off my back. So, all right. Where were we? Oh, yeah. So let's talk about our great show we have today. So last week, by the way, we talked about Bratz, Fallout, Under the Bridge, Impractical Jokers, and Outlanders. Today, we're talking about the case study of Vanitas? The case study of Vanitas, a Beverly Hills Cop retrospect, because 4 is coming out. Boondock Saints retrospect, because 3 is coming out. And Remembering Gene Wilder. So we got a great amount of shows. Normally we'd have more shows, but we have less shows, or as I like to call that, boy math.
And I like to say fewer shows.
That's a
I'm
beautiful
just not
callback,
letting
Jeff.
up. I do have a question though. Will you have Larry introduce himself so I know what he does?
Oh, I'm sorry. Larry,
No, it's all right.
that's right. We
No,
got distracted by
It's
the.
already passed. It's already passed.
It's
already
Larry's
passed.
been on the show so much, but I will. I got so distracted by
Doesn't
the
like
50
women. Doesn't like
voices.
Larry.
There was 50 voices. Larry is with Red Hat Media. He's the only person in America who can get away with wearing a red hat.
And I still struggle from time to time.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, Tonya, it's great to meet you, and Spider Dan, great to meet you as well. I think this is, this may be my 6th. It's at least my 5th appearance on the show. So it's always fun to be here. I always have a good time with it. Typically, I go back and I like to pick like early 80s flicks. I think I've done Teen Wolf. I've done a couple of ninja flicks. I don't remember what I did. Oh, look at Brett Allen. Brett Allen's in the house. That's awesome. Good to see you, Brett.
What's up,
But
Brett?
I'm the owner and founder of Red Hat Media, and we are all about brand storytelling here at Red Hat Media. And we do that primarily through podcasting, some interesting and creative branding initiatives, and a lot of AI along the way. So I've met Jeff. I've been in the podcast space now for a decade, heavily involved in an organization called PodFest. So I co-promote PodFest, which is a large independent podcasters conference. It takes place every year in Orlando, Florida. And our next event is coming up in January. And Jeff, you'll probably be happy to know that it's back at the old hotel. So it's amazing. We're going to have a great time there as compared to the interesting facility we had it at this year. But that's what I do, Tonya. It's all about podcasting and branding. So.
Well, then it's great for you to meet Spider Dan because he's a podcaster.
Yeah, it's always great to meet fellow podcasters. So I've got a couple of shows myself. I've got one called Branded with my female co-host, who is a whopping 29, come this Monday. So
Why isn't she just your co-host? Why do we have to apply gender to it?
because I was having a callback. I was calling back your girl math
I know, and I'm
comment,
trying to stick you and
I'm-
change the
I'm
conversation.
reinforcing the fact that if Sarah is watching, I did not comment on that, Sarah. I made no comment towards girl math whatsoever. 'Cause
girl math.
that'll get me
You
in
did,
trouble.
you did bring up her age though, so I don't know.
Yes.
If
No,
that's,
it's
Yeah.
her birthday's
did
Monday.
did you need to bring it
No,
up?
I did.
Oh,
I did. because
Larry. So
She's 29 on
controversial.
Monday. Her
it.
birthday's coming up in 3 days. It's just recognizing the fact that she's about to celebrate her 29th. So early happy birthday
Could have
to
just
her
said
as well.
birthday. Could have just said
Could
birthday.
have.
Yeah.
But she's
That's
still young
true.
enough where we can say her age and get away with it, right? She's still in that.
I don't know. It's all over after 25 or so, I've heard.
Well, see, I told her. I don't know how
What's
those
the,
kids
what's
open
the
ears.
Lily Allen
Yeah,
song?
man, for real.
There's a great Lily Allen song about that.
But yeah, so that's what I do. It's all about podcasting, branding, and a whole lot of AI stuff these days, especially now that AI is such a hot topic. But I was doing AI before AI was a cultural phenomenon. So
Yeah, you can't even say before it was popular because it's really not always popular, huh?
yeah, no, a lot of people hate it. The book you see me behind me here, that's my book, and probably 90% of it's written with ChatGPT. So, and it's interesting because I just spoke at a writers symposium this past weekend. Some folks that are trying to get their first books written, and I was talking about how to use AI to write your book, and there was some feedback,
A little bit of pushback, huh?
little
Yeah.
bit of pushback, and
So
I get that
Red
all the time.
Hats and Chat GT. You're like you're just going for like man of the year, huh?
Yeah, exactly. But I don't make sexist comments, so we'll leave it at that. So, yeah.
Here's Jerry, and I got Jerry is a great artist, by the way. He's very talented.
Well, you know, and Jerry, just as an FYI, I am an artist at heart. So much so that if you go back and you look at my high school ring, I wasn't an athlete. I did play basketball, but at one time my coach
you're an
literally yelled
athletic
out.
supporter.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Because I literally, I think it was even during homecoming, I pulled down a rebound in the basketball game. My coach yells, "Larry, don't shoot the ball." So I was definitely not an athlete, but I was always an artist. And my high school class ring actually has art on one side and business on the other. So I am definitely an artist at heart. I'm a creator at heart. And I definitely understand the pushback when it comes to using AI from a creative perspective. But I like to think that I strike the balance between the two.
That's my favorite line from Grease when the principal's doing it, and she goes, "And if you can't be an athlete, be an athletic supporter."
I was really worried when you were talking about your high school ring and where that was going to go. I thought it was going to be
just I'm an artist at heart all the way back since I was a kid. I mean, I turned 52 in August, so it's been a day or two, but I'll always, been an artist at my core.
What do you get? We don't have high school rings over here. What are they? What are they for? Are they for some sort of achievement of some kind? Or?
It's more of memorabilia. Typically, if you're an athlete, you'll get your jersey number, like your basketball, your football number on the ring. And we typically get them here in the States, at least I think it was our junior year is when we got them. And we would get them primarily to give to our girlfriends and let them wear them, and go, "Hey, this is my girl. So here, wear my ring." But
so you tagged your girls. So.
pretty much. Well,
As
yes, we did.
Ownership.
Yes, we did. It was the
Tonya,
90s.
I'm
We
working really hard to get
did a lot of tagging back in the day. Not so much these days.
That was
But
a very good point about James Cameron, by the way. And
Yes,
I missed it. What was that? James Cameron born us by after 40 years. Yeah, that's true.
I mean,
Yes.
not to name drop. When I was
would-
interviewing Gail Ann Hurd, who was married to James Cameron at the time, and she executive produced Terminator 2 and Terminator. And
I personally think James Cameron stole some ideas from the Days of Future Past storyline in X-Men, which came out about 2 or 3 years earlier, maybe 4 years earlier. Just saying.
Ooh, controversy on crossing the streams. We're going to get letters. We're going to get letters.
Dystopian future. Humans in camps are run by, evil robots. Yeah, human race and almost exterminated. Yeah, it rings a few bells. Someone time travels to stop it from happening.
Not the first
Yeah.
time James Cameron's been accused of stealing other ideas. So
Yes.
yeah.
Well, actually, I think in Terminator, isn't it a Harlan Ellison story? I think he stole from, because they have to note him in the credits. Harlan Ellison. It was like based on an idea by Harlan Ellison. Because
I think, and like the whole boat sinking thing he took from something.
complete ripoff. Complete ripoff.
That was like whatever. I'm not gonna call him out 100%.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. More billionaires should go visit the Titanic. I reckon. Maybe some Elon Musk types. Or
I was just watching a documentary the other night on YouTube about James Cameron is planning on going down. He's putting together a submersible and going to go down to prove that it can be done safely and successfully.
Yeah. Well, I think he has. I think he had said when the one imploded that they knew that was built from the
yeah.
day.
Yeah,
and that one had gone down before. Al Reese, a guest of mine on my podcast from The Simpsons, writer for The Simpsons, had actually been in the one previous.
Right.
Same thing, the same submersible.
Yeah.
But
it had a crack in the hull, or it had a crack in the fiberglass.
I think it was just wear. I think it could only
yeah.
take so many.
It wasn't the going down that was the problem. It was the coming back up.
It was the up. It was too high. It's too high.
Look at Tonya close her eyes as soon as you said that. She was like, "Son of a bitch! I see it's coming. It's coming."
Yeah.
Carmen's here. We got Carmen. We got Lee. What's up, everybody? It's So all right. We should probably talk about. Let's talk about some shows. So we got some awesome shows. We already did that. What do we got? Let's do Beverly Hills Cop. This is sort of a full retrospective of Detroit's most famous cop, even though it's named Beverly Hills.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Obviously you showed the picture there. It stars Eddie Murphy. And I meant to look this up before I came on the show, but I don't recall if this came out before or after the 48 Hours movies. But I think this came out before he teamed up with Nick Nolte and did the other buddy cop shows. But those were amazing as well. But Beverly Hills Cop, man, it's all about a cop that's in Detroit, played by Eddie Murphy. He plays Axel Foley. And he ends up having to head out to Beverly Hills to investigate some shenanigans that are taking place there. And he's a shenanigan-based kind of cop. He likes to play tricks on people. He doesn't do things by the book, and he tends to get in trouble wherever he goes. And one of the great things there's a gentleman that really stands out to me. He's played by Gil Hill. He plays the inspector, or he plays Axel Foley's boss in Detroit. And I learned this just earlier today, that he was actually a police inspector in real life. So that was kind of a cool thing to learn, because it took me back to also Full Metal Jacket with Arlie Ermy. He was actually a drill instructor. So it's kind of cool to see how he brought that power to that role. And although he plays a minimal part of the role, it really stands out, because he's one of those guys that can say the F word and it just feels so sincere. You know how some people, they just can't quite cuss right. They just can't quite, they can say it, but it just doesn't feel. When he says it, you feel it, and you felt everything that he ever got on to Axel about, and that was always fun. But he goes out to Beverly Hills to investigate. Actually, he goes out to meet up with a friend of his that was caught up in some bear bonds, and he was doing some bad dealings with the mafia, and he ends up getting murdered by the mafia. And Axel needs to figure out what the heck is going on and why they killed his buddy. So he ends up going out there, partnering up with a couple of local police officers that are in Beverly Hills. Is quite the opposite of Detroit. Everything in Beverly Hills is by the book. And as I mentioned before, Axel doesn't really do anything by the book. So he finds himself in a lot of trouble, gets arrested multiple times throughout the film, and there's all kinds of fun shenanigans that take place. It's Bronson Pinchot, is that right? Bronson, cousin Balky, right? Mm-hmm. Makes an appearance also as an art dealer. And in my opinion, this scene kind of steals the movie. I was always a Bronson Pinchot fan from not Bosom Buddies. What was the name of the show?
Perfect Strangers.
Perfect Strangers. Thank you. And I loved when he played Balky on that show. So when I was a kid, to see him in this movie, it was just a bonus treat. So if you don't watch it for anything else, look up that clip on YouTube and watch that. It's really, really funny. And it just sets itself apart from the rest of the movie. But he ends up partnering up with a couple of local police officers that are very straightforward and by the book. But over the course of the movie, he kind of wins them over, and they all end up teaming up together and essentially saving the day and figuring out exactly what happens there. But the cool thing is this was a great movie in the 80s. And if you're looking for a retrospective that takes you back to that timeline, if you've seen me on this show before, you know I talk about 80s movies all the time. And it was just 2 weeks ago where we watched all three of these movies, Beverly Hills 1, 2, and 3, back to back to back, as I was sitting there putting together my latest Lego kit. So it was doing Legos and watching Axel Foley. It took me back to the 80s. I was literally a kid all over again. But this movie was so successful that it spawned a sequel. Ironically enough, it was called Beverly Hills Cop 2. They got very, very creative back then. But you know what, Jeff? This happens every time. Every time I'm on your show, it goes past my bedtime. And what ends up happening?
10 o'clock, exactly 10 o'clock.
It is
Lights
10
go
o'clock.
out.
Every time my lights go out because they're on a timer. So let me go ahead and just turn these back on and we'll get back to business. So there we go.
It's
Everything's
very, very dramatic. I thought you were doing something.
That's AI for you. It tells you what to do with your life.
Everything in my house is automated. So it's just one of those things that I enjoy. But anyhow, we go with Beverly Hills Cop 2. And what ends up happening is Eddie Murphy goes back out there, re-teams up with the two straightforward cops. And interestingly enough, we see someone that's very popular in the mid 80s. I think this one came out in 87. And it was Sylvester Stallone's wife. Anybody know who that was?
Yeah, she played Red Sonja, but
she played Red Sonja. She played
Oh,
Ivan
Bridget
Drago's
Nielsen.
wife,
Yes,
Bridget
that's it.
Nielsen. Yes, she was very, very popular at the time, and she played one of the head bad guys. She was actually the main bad guy's right-hand woman, and she was very, very powerful woman. Interesting character in this one because, I mean, she could shoot, she could fight, she could do everything that you could do in the 80s, and she really took it to Eddie and the two police officers that were there. But before it was all said and done, they busted it was a drug ring this time around, and they ended up busting everybody and making everybody live happily ever after. Now, in an effort to, and we see this all too often, in an effort to capitalize on the popularity of this series a couple of years after the fact, they brought everybody back. Well, not quite everybody, but they brought most back for a wonderful version of Beverly Hills Cop that they called Beverly Hills Cop 3. Yeah, very intuitive. And this one to me was just a money grab. This is one of those where they have an IP, and it's very Star Wars-esque now. They have an IP, and they're just trying to milk every last little red cent out of it. And in this particular version of the film, they're going to a place that's very, very similar to Disneyland, and the owner of it's called Wonderland in this version of the movie. In this version of the movie, they're using Wonderland to launder money that they're printing. So it's all a counterfeit money ring. And everybody comes back except for one of the two cops that he typically teams up with when he heads out to Beverly Hills. So Taggart, he had moved off to, I think it was Arizona. So he kind of retired. But again, it's one of those that it was slapped together. It really isn't worth watching, in my personal opinion. Most of the jokes kind of fall flat. Most of the action is very, very flat and predictable. And again, it's just one of those where they're just trying to milk the series as much as they possibly can to get that attention. Now, I chose these three movies because, well, one, I just watched them, and it was ironic enough that I was going to be on the show this week. But at the same time, if you're on Netflix at all, you've probably seen commercials for Axel F. And Axel F is going to be Beverly Hills Cop 4. So at least they got a little more creative this time, and they gave it a name. And Axel F, obviously, I mentioned before, the main character played by Eddie Murphy, his name is Axel Foley. But Axel F is also a callback to the theme song. So if you are from the 80s, even if you never saw these movies, I can promise you that you heard the theme song that was a remix by Herbie Hancock that was at the time called There It Is. And the name of that song was Axel F. So I love the fact that they gave this one an actual name, but it looks like they've got the entire team together, with the exception of a couple of folks that have since passed away. And it's regrettable that they're no longer with us, because I'm not going to fall for the banana in the tailpipe. That's exactly right. That was one of the first.
Who's passed away?
Let's see. Who was it? I've got notes here.
Ronnie Cox, I think.
Ronnie Cox passed away, and Ronnie Cox played the lieutenant out in Beverly Hills. He was the by-the-book lieutenant.
Wait, when did Ronnie Cox die?
Dude, he was like a million when this movie came out. He died.
No. He did not die. He's alive. I just interviewed him not too long ago.
Then you probably know more about it than I do.
How many name drops can I do on that? I wish Fred was here.
When I was at the store and I ran into James.
No, he's 85 years old, but
still alive.
He's not in the movie. If you listen to my interview, He's not in the movie because he doesn't do sequels.
Oh,
I think he did the second one.
He
It's
did
like
when
he
he
did
was
the
in
second
Beverly
one as
Hills
like a
Cop 2.
favor, and it was just like a piece of it. But that's why he's not in 3 and definitely not in 4.
That's interesting because in the second one he gets shot.
Yeah.
And you don't know if he's dead or alive, but he gets shot at the very beginning of the movie, and that's really
Listen to
what
all these
triggers.
spoilers.
Yeah, well, yeah. So it's from 1987, so I don't know if that still
broke the
counts as a
cardinal
spoiler.
rule.
I
Yeah,
think
but-
we passed the 3-week window
Yeah, there you go.
by 30 years.
but
I don't
that's
know.
not-
If you're trying to get people to watch it right now, you could give them something to look forward
You
to.
can still watch
Well,
it. It's the first 5 minutes.
He's not
That's-
spoiled all 3 movies. So I will say
No,
that.
no. The first. I was very vague about the first one actually. So, and I don't know who it was that commented about the tailpipe, but the banana in the tailpipe, that's a huge gag throughout the movie. So that person right there should be kicked off the stream, not me.
Yeah.
No,
I think these are the type of movies
He's
where
attacking your guests.
it's not like the Sixth Sense where you find out if, like he said, what the Sixth Sense
Yes.
was, right? I mean, like the Beverly Hills Cop movies are like they're more in the execution and the acting and the actors.
they're just fun popcorn movies. And
Yeah.
one of the things that I noticed this weekend too was if you consume any modern content and for whatever reason they end up in a strip club, never are the dancers at the strip club really naked. Even in rated R movies, they still have pasties on and they're not naked. But it was funny to watch these because back in the 80s, they found some reason to get breasts on the screen. I mean, they every movie they go to a dance club and they're naked and they're every movie. And my wife and I were talking about it. We just thought it was hilarious because if you think about it, back then most movies had some sort of nudity, gratuitous nudity for no reason. Didn't push the plot forward. Wasn't necessary at all.
Oh, there
But
was
you
a
look-
reason.
Well, yes, there was definitely a reason because me as a
Boy
teenager,
math.
I was like, we got to go see
Money.
Beverly Hills Cop.
Money.
Did you just say
They go
boy
to the-
math?
Yeah, this is great. So yes, there was a reason,
That's
but
2 boobies.
from a
That's
story-driven
4 boobies.
perspective,
I think the most gratuitous nudity in any movie from that period is Airplane. It's like all they did was just throw it in the scene when the plane's going, everyone's going crazy. It's like anyway.
it's been a long time since I've seen Airplane, but yes, there was a lot of adult level jokes there. But yeah, man, it was kind of interesting to see that because, like I said, nowadays you can watch rated R movies and they go out of their way not to have nudity. So it was really an interesting observation to see how different it was all those decades ago. But anyways, I'm looking forward to Axel F. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I've seen the commercials. I am a little nervous though because everybody in the movie is geriatric, but it should be.
Wow.
Well, they are. They're all. I mean, everybody's.
That doesn't mean
super.
they've lost all of their value.
I'm not saying they've lost their value. Look, I'm probably the oldest person on this call right now, so I can dig it. But at the same time, there comes a point where, sitting on top of a car in the middle of a car chase and going pew, pew, pew and trying to shoot the bad guys, it just doesn't necessarily work. Now,
Maybe they'll have the slowest car chase ever, and it'll be fun.
I think if they make it right
Golf
for them,
cart.
like Liam Neeson.
yeah,
Like,
he was on your
he's
show,
a-
wasn't he? You had him on
Yeah,
your show.
no, I haven't, but he's a badass. He's older. I always thought the mistake with Indiana Jones 5 was de-aging him and not having him kick ass as current Harrison Ford, because that's really what we wanted to see. I don't think like it's watching Indiana Jones 5 that everyone was like, I want to see young Harrison Ford kick ass. We just wanted to see Harrison Ford kick ass. We needed
We just
our
wanted to see
Harrison
Indiana
Ford to
Jones.
kick ass. And they just made him this old, like, oh, and it was like, at least in the beginning, and it's like, no, it didn't work for me. Horrible.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's rough. And I have, obviously it works to a certain degree in Bad Boys, the latest Bad Boys. I haven't seen that film yet, but I mean, I think
good.
it crossed $1 billion. So, I mean, it can't, and again, Martin's not as old as some of the folks that are in Axel F, but I've seen Martin moving and he ain't moving like old school Martin by any stretch of the imagination. So it's going to be interesting to see how he performed in that movie. I'll have to wait for it to come to a streaming service because I don't get out of the house. But when it does come out, I'll definitely watch it. And apparently they were able to pull that one off. So it'll be interesting
I
to see
heard
what they
that
do.
movie's great. I heard the first like 10-15 minutes is a little cringy, but then it like boom. Then it
Oh, and then it
takes
gets better. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
I liked it. I liked it.
Okay, cool.
No, I've heard nothing but good. It's just,
Hmm.
do you agree? Like the first 10 minutes?
It gets a bit metaphysical for a Bad Boys movie at one point. I will say it goes into an interesting direction, but very briefly. But
All right.
yeah, it leads into an interesting. Again, not trying to spoil it for Tonya, but it goes into an interesting kind of side story for Martin Lawrence's character.
Yeah,
Is it worth watching in the theater?
Yeah, I mean, I think so because you got the
mean-
scene where Martin Lawrence says something and then Will Smith smacks him. All right, moving on.
Yes, yeah.
We've seen. I mean,
Moving on. Let's talk about Boondock Saints. This is the movie
Okay.
featuring the very famous guy from The Walking Dead.
Yes. Well, not speaking of Indiana Jones, you've got young Indiana Jones, you've got Daryl Dixon of The Walking Dead, and you've also got the Green Goblin in there as well. So Boondock Saints is a film I was kind of coming into this is the film a 14-year-old boy wants to see, basically. For better or worse, this is what a 14-year-old kind of wants. It is an action vigilante kind of thriller. It's about two Irish boys living in Boston, and one night they get a message from God, and he says, you need to kill all the guilty, all the evil, the sinful people in the world. And they decide to take out all of the organized crime in Boston, as you do.
Right.
So yeah. I revisiting this, I did realize, and I know you guys are hugely problematic, and Tonya's pointed that out to both of you, how problematic you both are. But this film, coming back to it, I was like, oh, wow, this is very problematic. There are slurs, there are unfortunate portrayals of gay people, Irish people, Russian people, like stereotypes you wouldn't believe. And is it well shot? Not particularly. Is it well written? Not particularly. Is it well acted? Not particularly. But there's something about it, and clearly it had a cult success. So there has been a sequel, there's been a spin-off comic books, and there is going to be a third film, so a second sequel. And I think for me, it was there was a documentary about the rise and fall of the guy who created this as well, and how he rose so quickly in Hollywood and fell very dramatically as well. I think it's called Overnight, as in he was a success overnight. Troy Duffy's the guy's name, and yeah, it's an interesting film. Tonally, it's all over the show. It's funny, it's creepy, it's weird. It has a lot of problematic stuff in it. It has problematic actors in it. It has problematic moments. There are animal deaths. Spoilers, Tonya, but there is an animal death. I won't say what animal, but I will say meow. So
A leopard?
Yes, exactly. That's it.
like my favorite, Jeff.
That's why this is more of a warning. Don't watch
No,
this.
this
show.
is my
Yeah.
this is because I know Tonya's. Next year we're going to be doing on my podcast some banned films, so we're gonna have to do a bit more research on what Tonya's feels like she feels comfortable watching, and what I feel comfortable watching as well. But yeah, so going back into this, I was a bit like, and it's even got Billy Connolly. If you're familiar with him, he's a Scottish comedian, and he plays a character in it who's this assassin that has a vest that has 6 different guns on it that he keeps kind of pulling out and dual wielding. And there's some really fun and cool action sequences. Again, it's a bit copy and paste here and there, but there is something enjoyable to it. I mean, one of the opening jokes in the opening scenes is them making fun of kind of domestic abuse and then beating up a woman. And again, I can completely understand why you wouldn't want to watch this, wouldn't like it. But I think if you're into kind of your mobster or vigilante movies and you've got a kind of a little sick and twisted sense of humor, I think there's something here for you to enjoy and to get out of. Again, it's definitely not for everybody. It's probably not even for half of those people. It's probably maybe there's a small group of about 15% of people that probably would actively enjoy something like this. But there is something to it. And the main draw for me is Willem Dafoe is the one of the best characters he ever played. He plays a gay FBI agent who's kind of trying to track down and catch these two kind of vigilantes, and they get kind of roped in with an Italian mobster guy who wants to kill all the other gangsters, the Russians and the Italian gangsters, and he's humorous and he's funny, and it's hilarious. But I think like Willem Dafoe absolutely steals the film, and what he does is every time they go to I know Tonya doesn't really like flashbacks, but they go to a crime scene and Willem Dafoe picks apart the crime scene and tells them how it happens, and he dramatically reenacts it, and he's got playing classical music, and he's dancing away and he's firing his gun and he's like, there was a firefight. It's crazy, and there's so much fun and camp and playfulness with his character, but it also goes into some very interesting and dark places. And if you've ever wanted to see Willem Dafoe in drag, this is the film, and it might make you question things about yourself that you've never known. Maybe made me question things as a 14-year-old boy as well. But yeah, it's wild, it's strange. It kind of has to be seen to be believed as well. But yeah, just know what you're kind of going in for. It's quite juvenile. But there are elements that I still kind of have a soft spot for, because I'm kind of, again, this is me kind of journeying back to kind of who I was back then when I was looking for films like this. And I had a kind of a Willem Dafoe kind of love story for me, because I saw him in Spider-Man and I was like, oh my God, who is this guy? And then I tried to get everything I could. I remember I bought an issue of Empire, which is the film magazine, and I read an interview about his whole career, like a retrospective, and I found all these different films, and Boondock Saints was in there, and I found Platoon, and all of his other stuff. Even Body of Evidence was in there, with his erotic thriller with Madonna, where he has a melted wax poured on his Green Goblin. So yeah,
It's pickleball.
Yeah, it's pickable. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, 100%. So that's my pick. But yes, just know what you're going in for. But yeah, there's a lot of kind of problematic stuff. I probably wouldn't show it to your young teenagers or anything else. But I think maybe if you're 30, maybe late 20s or 30s, 40s, I think you'll accept what it is and you'll appreciate it. But I can understand why people would hate it, despise it, not like it. Absolutely understand, but there is still an energy or something about it that
has a charm to it.
It has, yeah. There's something I can't. It's a je ne sais quoi that about it. I can't really put a finger on. But I was at this time I was reading things like Punisher Max, which was all about like mobsters and vigilante violence and had black humor in it. So I was fully embracing that kind of disruptive, dark kind of side of myself and my teenage angst. So yeah, that's kind of why I love it. So it's kind of a little bit of a journey for me going back and revisiting that.
It is so much stronger than English accent. You nailed it, dude.
Spider Dance will just do everything. We should all talk in.
I used to do Shakespeare, so if that's half as good as that.
But you did
You
great.
should hear his coverage of the latest X-Men series, because he will go into, he does all the research and knows all the backgrounds and stuff, and you just sit there going, this is more interesting than some shows out there. Not more interesting than X-Men, because that was amazing. But
no, that was a good show.
Just listening to you go into the histories of some of the ways that the characters came about and the storylines from the comics, I found that worth the price of the podcast.
Yeah, that'd be super, super cool.
Yeah, I didn't come out of high school with any rings. I didn't come out with many grades or anything, but I did come out with an insane knowledge of stupid comic book trivia. That's my claim to fame. That's my achievement.
I just want to say real quick that I have never seen this movie and I have no intention of watching this movie. So for anybody that's watching, please know that this isn't something that I personally would consume, and I do not support or condone Spider Dan's words are not my own. So just...
Oh dear! Again, yeah, absolutely, that's problematic, and my choice has been problematic. So it fits the theme of this evening and all the other guests.
Well, let's see. All right, up next, the case study of Vanitas. I gave it a little.
Sounded so.
Tonya Todd is going to take us through Okay,
We should have Dan. Will you say the name of the show?
Of this show, your
No.
show,
Read the bottom of the screen.
this one.
What are we discussing?
Read the bottom of the screen.
The case study of Vanitas.
Very well, very nice. That's lovely. What we really
The
should
case
do is get all the
study of
transcripts and get him to just
Vanitas.
say everything.
Yeah. Just
Don't
repeat
get
everything.
me. Don't get me to say it. Just get AI to say it.
No,
I'm
no,
sure
no,
Yes.
no,
Okay,
no.
it's ChatGPT to just go. All right.
All right. So the case study of Vanitas. This is an anime that takes place in 19th century steampunk Paris. And unlike other animes where they, I have my issues with some where it's like 25% of the show is a recap of what happened the previous episode. This doesn't do that. It moves the story forward. And even if there is a flashback, it's done well. It's like it was originally part of the storytelling process. So I don't mind if there is a flashback as long as it is propelling the story forward, not instead of moving forward. I don't like to sit in it. So it's a story where vampires exist. And years ago, there was a big war between the vampires and the humans. And in the end, they came to an agreement that the vampires will kind of stay hidden and they are not allowed to consume human blood without the host's permission. As long as they abide by that rule, everything should be fine. However, there's something called a curse-bearing vampire. So there's a curse going around and vampires are suffering something called a malnomen, which means it has to do with their name. Their names have power, like their true names have power. The name that everyone knows them as is not their internal name. And if that gets corrupted, they can become cursed and they can no longer control their bloodlust. So that's going to create some problems with keeping them hidden and not breaking that rule. Our main vampire is Noe, and he is an archivist, whereas if he drinks your blood, he can read your memories from it. And that is one of the ways that they kind of do flashbacks, is he will drink someone's blood and then we'll go into their history. So it is part of the storytelling. And he travels with his cat, Muir, and he comes upon a woman in need of help. And as he's trying to help her, there are little clues about her. She's cold and she is feeling kind of faint and she's anemic and she's troubled. And it turns out, well, I don't want to ruin the story for the first episode, but he ends up needing the help of Vanitas, who is a human who claims that he is a doctor determined to save all the vampires, whether they want it or not. And he's kind of obnoxious, but he's also kind of amazing and charming. He's not my favorite character on the show, but I like him a lot. Like, he is obnoxious, which makes it impossible for him to be my favorite. At the same time, he brings so much to the table that he's enjoyable when he's on screen. He has his own tragic history, but he is truly trying to save the vampires. And while these two kind of clash, they develop a friendship that it feels almost romantic in nature because of how strong it is and because of how intimate they become as friends. It's really good storytelling where they show healthy male friendships with that level of intimacy where they can talk to each other about things while they're still able to fight and, kick ass on screen and do all of this violent stuff. And then they also have outside relationships that kind of weave their way into, it's almost like you hear about triangle relationships. This is more like kind of squares. Like, there's this one's in love with this one, but you see romantic feelings for this one. And the way that they're all tied together while still trying to save the vampires in this world, it's very well done. I really enjoy the relationships in this. And I will tell you that the scene that absolutely just captured me, I wasn't watching the show. Someone showed it to me. They said, I saw something and it seems like you need to see this. So we have Noe, our main vampire, and in comes in Dominique Desaad, who is of the Desaad family, and she collars him takes him out of there and brings him to Vampire Paris, which is just gorgeous. The skies are red and there's a spider web in the sky, and vampires can feast to their heart's delight. And it was just so beautiful that it was, okay, I am watching this show now. How could you not think that I needed to see this show from the beginning? You have captured me, sir.
So you love it.
I do. I love it. This is my favorite anime because the storytelling is so good, but it's also beautiful. It's beautiful to see the character. The drawings are beautiful. The anime is beautiful, and it doesn't do the boring recap that drives me crazy. Because you can have this really great show, and then, wow, I got to watch 10 minutes of new material.
I feel documentaries do that all the time, where like they come back from the commercial and the first 5 minutes is what you just saw, and then you move forward.
It's so aggravating. Like, I don't need the recap. I remember what I just saw. I remember what I saw last week.
Yeah.
I remember Dragon Ball Z was always just padding. There was just episodes of characters just going, next episode he'll be powerful enough to destroy the villain. And, and that was because I think the manga was being written and it wasn't coming out as fast as the show was, so they had to pad out the stories because they didn't know how they were ending.
That's my only complaint about this, is that it's not finished because we're waiting on the manga. But there's still a lot out already.
How do we watch this?
On Crunchyroll.
Okay.
Crunchyroll.
Yeah.
What is that exactly?
And I think it's also on Hulu.
It's like an anime. It's like an anime streaming service.
Okay.
Yes.
So if you know, you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The second you were describing it, I was like ticking off like the Tonya checklist. I was like,
yeah. Vampire check. Cat check.
Bloodletting check. Consented bloodletting check.
Yes.
Vampire Paris check. Yep. Steampunk check.
And the way when they drink, it is so erotic. Like, it is just. I mean, it's not overt. It's in a subtle way that it's just like, oh yeah, like just.
I like that idea.
Tonya, would you brush your hair back just a little bit right here on the left? Would you just brush that back? Because I think we're going to see some fang marks on there somewhere. I don't know.
All right. Well, three amazing reviews, but as our newer guests, this is only Tanya's second time. Spider Dan nailed his first time. Larry's been knocking it out of the park since he got here.
This is probably my weakest. I felt like tonight was my weakest of all my reviews. So
but I wasn't going to say it.
It was pretty weak.
It's hard to top Pee-wee's Big Adventure, but like,
yeah.
We'll go. So one last show we'll just squeeze in. Remembering Gene Wilder, which is a new documentary. Are you guys familiar with Mr. Gene Wilder? Okay.
I've seen some of his work. Yeah.
So Gene Wilder is amazing. He's one of those actors that, I don't know, maybe it's because of Willy Wonka specifically that he just endured forever, but he's done so many obviously great things and have been in so many great things. Blazing Saddles, Young Frankenstein, which he co-wrote with Mel Brooks. And so this is a 90-minute documentary on Netflix. If you like Gene Wilder at all, I totally recommend it. It's I found it to be a very delightful watch. It was a nice stroll down memory lane. And here's the coolest thing about it. Gene Wilder's been, I think he passed away. Or are we supposed to say he unalived? I feel like that's what you're supposed to say.
Oh my God. No, let's.
He passed away in like 2016, I think. So many years ago. But it's his voice narrating the whole 90 minutes. So they took either from interviews or maybe he did an audiobook on one of his own books or something like that. But he narrates his own life story.
What a nice touch.
Yeah, because it was nice. Because it's like usually it's like, yeah, people going, yeah, Gene would do this and this and this, and then maybe they show a clip and maybe some awkward reenactment of two people where you can't really see their face. Not so much that kind of stuff. It was really good. It's always great. Is Mel Brooks? I mean, he's got to hold the record for being that snappy at his age. I mean, that guy just keeps rocking. Don't you say a word, Spider Dan. We don't need you jinxing this.
I was gonna say, didn't he win a lifetime achievement award or get an
Oh,
Oscar
there you
or
go.
something? I don't know.
Don't watch
Yeah,
the
but he's not
news.
covering one of his movies on his show. That's where the jinx is.
Ah, got
That's
it.
the
Sorry,
curse.
sorry. The Zeitgeist curse. Yes,
Yes.
of
So,
course.
the Carol Kane spoke, they'd worked together. Harry Connick Jr., Ellen Aldo were two celebrity people that kind of chimed in and shared memories. Didn't understand those two specifically. Ellen Zybel did, but he had a connection to Gilda Radner. Um, Richard Pryor's daughter, Rain, spoke on behalf of him and their relationship. It was just such an interesting, as they kind of go through all the iterations and him working with Mel Brooks and then going on his own and being a director on his own and his entire relationship, which only really was on screen, which was interesting with Richard Pryor. They had no real relationship when the camera stopped rolling and they would go, off
Wow, they
screen.
seem like they were best friends on screen.
Yeah, they had undeniable, amazing chemistry. I want to tell everyone to watch this and enjoy it. It's very sad at the end, obviously, because it deals with his end of life, and which wasn't great, and him passing away. And it had moments with Gilda Radner and his new wife, and it was very loving and touching. I do want to take this moment though to which this is featured in the movie, and it's my favorite Gene Wilder movie, which is The Frisco Kid. And it's not to say I don't like any of the other ones. They're all great, but I always felt this was the most underrated and never talked about. But they did focus on it a lot in the documentary. It's Gene Wilder is a rabbi, a Polish rabbi, and this is an Old West. This is an Old West comedy. And he has to go to San Francisco to run the yeshiva. No, he's going to the yeshiva. He's going to their synagogue to be their rabbi, and he has to bring this Torah from Poland across. And his guide is Harrison Ford, who I believe is a quarter Jewish, according to the Adam Sandler song, but plays a very awesome non-Jewish person in this. So it's like the two of them is like. And he's like the rough Western guy, like getting him across. And it's just like, to me, it's like one of the funniest movies. And I've seen this movie a million times. I own it on DVD. And it's just Gene Wilder is this Polish rabbi. It takes place in 1935. No, I'm sorry. 1979 is when it was filmed. I'm trying to see where it says what year it actually takes place in the movie. But made no money. Complete flop. I think it caused 9.2 million, made 9.3 million, so nothing. 54% on Rotten Tomatoes, 67% audience score, so not well received. But I'm telling you, it's amazing. It's like one of those movies you got to really watch it to get the humor. You know what I'm talking about? Like really, oh, that was funny, that was hilarious. Like those kind of moments where it's just like so genuine. Anyway, I just want to take a moment and plug that movie. It's you can go watch Willy Wonka and all the obvious ones, but I'm telling you, The Frisco Kid, and I have no idea where it is, if you can even find it anywhere, but it is my favorite Gene Wilder movie. With the movie, they were showing the clips, and I'm saying the quotes as they're coming on, and it's really great. Anyway, that's it. I know we got to end because Spider Dan's got to go to bed. But watch Remembering Gene Wilder. If you have any affinity for Gene Wilder, there's nothing to spoil. There's nothing to tell. It's his life in 90 minutes. It's the perfect amount of time. 90 minutes. No flashbacks. Actually, it's all flashback. But like, it's a giant flashback, and no flashbacks on the flashbacks. So that's always good. And then, but yeah, it's really enjoyable if you want to just kind of go down memory lane in that world. I highly recommend it. Highly recommend it.
Very cool.
Spider Dan, Tonya, Larry Roberts, thank you guys so much. Everyone in Instagram land. Spider Dan, if you want to plug everything, whatever you want to plug, and then you can go to bed.
Yeah, sure. So Spider Dan the Secret Balls, available on all good podcatchers. I'm on Instagram. I'm at Spider Dan Secret Balls, and on Twitter at Dan_Balls, and I think it's at Secret Balls on Facebook if people still use that. But yes, check me out. Go find some wonderful clips. You've got Tonya's on quite a few of the podcasts now. The last one we did was Deadly Friend, which was a mixed bag. The podcast itself, great. The film has its moments. Yes,
Yes, it does.
But
Basketball
the discussion, yes, the basketball especially. Oh, thank you very much, Sherry. I really appreciate that.
and I gotta say, Aaron's grandma's favorite movie is Frisco Kid. So there you go. Yay, Tonya.
Thank you, Carmen.
Real fast, your X-Men coverage, is that on your podcast or is it just on Comics in
No.
Motion?
So that if you want to listen to me talk about X-Men 97, Tonya is on there as well. Me and Max co-host with Dave Horrocks, who runs Comics in Motion. So if you look up that podcast, there's some of them are available on YouTube as well, some of the episodes, but not all of them. But yeah, Comics in Motion, and just scroll down until you kind of hit X-Men 97, examining X-Men 97, we call it. We do an episode 0 where we talk about the previous show, and then we start doing each episode pretty much from there on in.
Awesome.
The links are on my website, which is spiderdownthesecretballs.com. There you go.
All
Yep,
right.
that's the easiest way.
Yeah. Probably.
So I am available across social media. Just look up my name. You can find me on IMDb, Instagram, Facebook, and I'm still kind of on Twitter. Don't post as much as I should. Don't even visit it as much as I should. But I'm sticking around because there are a few people I'm still connected to on there. And then I curated and I contributed to an essay in Comics Lit, which is coming out in October, where we are comparing comic books and comic book characters to classic literature and kind of arguing how they are high art. So anyone who's really into comic books, or if they change their world, I definitely recommend. Some of the essays in there are just so fantastic. Mine is not the best, I can absolutely say with certainty, because there's so much talent in that book. And Brian Edward Hill wrote the foreword for us, and even that is spectacular, just what he had to say. I also have a short film that I'm working on, Morning Sacrifice. Larry, you'll be shocked that there's a vampire in it.
Whoa, no way.
Shocking.
But it's still in editing.
Where else can they find you this week, Tonya?
I did this guy's show a really long time ago, and I think he finally got around to putting out the episode because I was going to be on this show.
Truer words have never been spoken, Tonya.
Yes.
Smart marketing by that fellow, I'll tell you
Check out
that.
my story on Classic Conversations, and then you can hear about all of this stuff.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Very cool. Larry, remind
The
everyone.
Larry Roberts. It's the Larry Roberts across all social media platforms. I don't have a lot in regards to comics. I don't do a whole lot of comics. If you did see the rest of my studio, it is a Bat Cave. So I am a massive Batman fan, have been my entire life. I have the vast majority of the larger Lego Batman sets, and that's one of the things that I really enjoy doing is watching 80s movies while putting together my Lego Batman set. So that's a lot of fun, but not a lot of comic history in my background. I do enjoy a Comic-Con from time to time. Did get to meet, who did I get to meet? I got to meet Batfleck, got to meet Jason Momoa, got to meet Jeff Goldblum, and got to meet Morena Baccarin, who is probably Deadpool's lady friend. And she's probably my biggest celebrity crush. And it was kind of funny. Tell a quick story. I got in line, and it was the end of the day. We'd already gone through all the autographs and all the photo sessions. And I happened to see her line, and I'm like, oh my God. And it's $65 cash. And I'm digging through my pocket, and I got $65. So I tell my wife, I say, hold on, I'm getting in line. And I get up to the front of the line, and there's one person in front of me. And this guy, literally, when he meets her, brings her around the table. He gets down on one knee, and he proposes to her. And I'm like, bro, what are you doing?
So taking his shot.
Well, her husband was at Comic-Con as well. So, I mean, it was kind of a, really raw thing to do. But anyways, she played it off. She was very gracious about it and went through the motions with him and whatever. And I get up to her and I go, how do I compete with that? She goes, please just don't. So
you treat me like a person.
Yeah. She goes, please just don't. So
she's
I'm
also
like, okay,
season
cool.
on Homeland.
Yeah.
Firefly, V, the remake of V.
Yep. Yeah, so big fan of hers, but I mean that's the extent of my comic prowess. But anyhow, I love being on this show. I love coming on, and typically I do a much better job. For some reason, I have a splitting headache, and I just was not on my game tonight. So
I thought you did fine. It made me want
you
to
were
watch
great.
the films again.
yeah, I appreciate it.
Everyone should do as well as you do on a headache.
So,
All right.
anyways, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. It was great meeting you,
All right,
Tonya. Great meeting you, Spider Dan. We'll
My
see you all
pleasure.
next time.
Great
Appreciate y'all
meeting everyone.
later. All right. We'll see you next time. Thanks, everyone.
Hey, bye.
Bye.
And that is the end of the show. And now I'm going to end it on Instagram. There we go.